I introduced her to my man, my sugar, and she collected my sugar by using wicked lies, and she told him lies about me, and he left me for her.
Two former roommates are in court today. Why, you may ask? It is all because of sugar. And it's not just ordinary sugar. There's daddy in the sugar. Benita Okafor, 23 years old, is suing her former best friend Chinonso for defamation of character. She says Chinonso deliberately told lies, dangerous, calculated, specific lies, to a man named Femi Adeyinka, her sugar daddy. Lies that destroyed Benita's relationship with that man. Lies that cost her not just love, but financial stability, peace of mind, and her reputation. And the damages she is asking for? 2 million naira. But wait and see how much the judge asked the defendant to pay for the damages she caused the plaintiff, Benita Okafor. Subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification. Before we get into what happened in that courtroom, the heat and the drama, you need to understand the full picture. Because this story did not start with betrayal, it started with friendship. Real, genuine, everyday friendship. Benita and Chinonso were university roommates. They had been close since their very first year. The kind of close where you share food without asking, where you borrow each other's clothes without permission, where you sit on the same bed at midnight and talk about your future like it belongs to both of you. Then, about 18 months ago, Benita's life changed. She attended a birthday party in Victoria Island, the kind of party where the tables have fresh flowers and the waiters wear uniforms. And at that party, she met Femi Adeyinka, 53 years old, a businessman, comfortable in the way that only comes from decades of serious work. He was charming, he was attentive, he noticed Benita that night, and he made sure she noticed him back. They exchanged numbers, they started talking, then they started spending time together. Going to nice restaurants, quiet evenings, 2 trips to Dubai. Over time, Femi started taking care of Benita in ways that were very real and very practical. Her rent, her school fees balance, the startup she had been trying to build. He became her stability, her safety net, her person. Yes, it was that kind of relationship, an arrangement some people would call it. Benita did not pretend otherwise when she stood before the judge. Whatever anybody wants to call it, she said, it was real to me. And Judge Albert, sharp, experienced, unshakable, looked at her and said simply, I'm not here to judge the nature of the relationship. Continue. So Benita continued. Around September of last year, Chinonso came to her. She said she was struggling with her final year project. She needed to interview someone in the business world, someone with real experience for her research. She asked Benita, could she please connect her to Big Femi? Just for project guidance, just for a conversation. Benita did not hesitate. This was her best friend. Why would she hesitate? She introduced them over WhatsApp. A simple, short message. Femi, this is my friend Chinonso. She is working on her final year project and needs guidance from someone in the business sector. Please help her if you can. Clean, simple, innocent. That was in September. By December, Femi Adeyinka had ended his relationship with Benita. When Femi started pulling away, Benita did not understand it. He stopped calling as often. He started cancelling their plans. The warmth that used to be there, that ease, that comfort, began to feel distant and forced. Benita asked him what was wrong. He said he needed space. She gave him space. She waited. She was patient. Then one Monday morning, her phone buzzed. It was a message from Femi. He wanted to end things. No phone call, no sit-down conversation, no explanation. Just a few lines of text on his screen saying, "It is over." Benita was devastated. She did not know what she had done.
She replayed everything in her mind, every conversation, every moment, every possible mistake she could have made. Nothing made sense. For weeks, she lived with that confusion. Then one day, she ran into Sunday. Sunday was Femi's driver. Over the months of their relationship, Benita and Sunday had become friendly in the way that you become friendly with people who are always around, with small talk, with small kindness, with a mutual understanding of each other's place in things. When Sunday saw Benita, he could see the pain on her face, and something in him could not stay quiet. He pulled her aside, he lowered his voice. He said, "Auntie Benita, I feel sorry for what happened. You should know the truth. Oga ended things because someone told him something very bad about you." Benita asked what? What did they say? Sunday told her. Someone had told Femi that Benita had done 5 abortions. Not 1, not 2, 5. They told him she had serious medical complications from those procedures. They told him she had hidden her health history from him deliberately. They painted her as a dangerous, deceptive woman who had no business being in a serious man's life. 5 abortions. Specific, detailed, designed to cause maximum damage. And suddenly, everything made sense. The coldness, the distance, the morning text. Femi had not fallen out of love. He had been poisoned. And Benita knew, in her bones, without any doubt, exactly who had done the poisoning. Because there was only one person who had been introduced to Femi. Only one person who had been privately speaking to him since that September WhatsApp introduction. Only one person who both had access and the motive. Chinonso. The same girl who had eaten at her table, slept in her room, called her sister, was now sleeping in Femi's house. But knowing something and proving it in a court of law are two very different things. Benita had the testimony of a driver who was not even willing to show up and repeat what he said. Sunday had already told her he did not want trouble. He had a job to protect. He would not come to court. So Benita walked into that courtroom with pain, with certainty, and with one question hanging over everything. Could she actually prove it?
When Chinonso stood up to respond, she was composed, steady, almost rehearsed. She admitted the things she could not deny. Yes, Benita introduced her to Femi. Yes, they had become friendly through those conversations. Yes, and she said this without flinching. She was now in a romantic relationship with him. She was not going to insult the court by lying about what was clearly true. But she denied everything else. She denied telling anyone about abortions. She denied spreading any false information. She said whatever choices Femi made about his own relationship were his choices, made by a grown man with his own mind. She said she had nothing to do with it. She was calm. She was polite. She answered every question with careful, measured words. And the gallery watched and wondered which one of these women was telling the truth. Judge Albert asked Chinonso directly, did she have any evidence to support her position? Any proof that she had not done what Benita was claiming? Chinonso said no, she had no physical evidence, but she pointed out clearly that Benita did not have much either. The only source was Sunday the driver, and Sunday was nowhere near this courtroom. He was nowhere near this courtroom. His testimony existed only as a second-hand story in Benita's mouth. That is hearsay, Your Honor, Chinonso said. She has no direct evidence. She was right, and the weight of it was visible on Benita's face. For a moment, the case looked shaky. It looked like it might crumble under its own thin foundation. No witness, no documentation, just one woman's word against another. The judge looked at Benita, and Benita looked right back. Then she said, Your Honor, I have screenshots. The room changed in an instant. Chinonso turned her head slowly. Her composure flickered for just a second. What messages? Benita did not raise her voice. She did not smile. She simply looked at the woman who had been her best friend and said, "You want to ask about messages now? Now you want to talk?" She reached into her folder and produced printed copies of a WhatsApp conversation, a private conversation between Chinonso and Femi Adenka. Messages that Chinonso never expected anyone to see. Messages that had been sitting quietly in a phone, waiting for exactly this moment. She read them aloud in open court, every word landing like a stone. Chinonso had written, "You need to be careful with Benita. There are things about her past she has not told you." Femi had replied, "What do you mean?" And Chinonso had written back, "I don't want to be the one to talk, but she has had serious medical issues from terminations multiple times. I am only telling you because I care about your health too." The court went completely silent. Not a murmur, not a cough, just silence and the weight of those words floating in the air. Judge Albert read the printed copy herself. Then she set it down. Then she looked up at Chinonso with the kind of patience that is more frightening than anger. "I am going to give you a chance to explain this. Choose your words very carefully."
The whole courtroom was watching Chinonso now. And Chinonso, the woman who had walked in calm as still water, was no longer so still. What could she possibly say? "How do you explain your own words?" Chinonso tried. She said the messages were being taken out of context. Benita almost came out of her chair. Out of context? How do you take "she has had serious medical issues from terminations multiple times" out of context? What other context exists for those words? Judge Albert held the room with one look. Then she turned back to Chinonso. Chinonso changed her approach. She said she was genuinely worried about Femi. She said she cared about him and had heard things being said around campus about Benita's past. She was not making it up. She was simply passing on information she had received. Benita did not let that pass. "Name one person," she said. Her voice was steady, but her eyes were burning. "Name one person who told you I had 5 abortions. One name, one face, one person." Chinonso looked at the table. She said it was general campus talk. You know how campus is. People say things. She had simply heard things and she was worried and "Campus talk does not produce specific numbers," Benita said. "Campus talk does not say 5 abortions. Campus talk does not say medical complications. You constructed that story. You built it carefully and you sent it to the one person who could use it to destroy me." And then Benita's voice broke. Not because she was weak, but because some pain is too heavy to carry without letting some of it out. She told the court that this was her name, her reputation, that she had been called things in Femi's circle that she refused to repeat in that courtroom, that the embarrassment had followed her, that people who used to respect her looked at her differently now, that she had lost not just a relationship, but her stability, the rent, the school fees, the business startup, all of it gone in one season because of words that were never true. She sat across from me every single morning. She ate my food, she borrowed my clothes, and then she went behind my back and destroyed me for a man she wanted. That is what happened. I need her to say it in this courtroom today. The gallery was completely silent. Even the people who had come in with crossed arms and opinions were quiet now, because real betrayal sounds different from drama. Real betrayal has a weight to it that you can feel from across the room. Judge Albert let the moment sit. Then she turned to Chinonso one final time. "I have one more question for you, and I want you to answer it honestly. Did you develop feelings for Femi Adenka before or after you sent those messages?"
Nobody moved. Chinonso sat very still. She looked at the table in front of her.
She looked at her hands. She looked at the wall somewhere to the left of the judge's bench. She looked everywhere except at Benita. The silence stretched on long enough to become its own kind of answer. And then, quietly, with no drama and no escape left, Chinonso said it. Before, the gallery exploded. Shouting, gasping, people talking over each other all at once. Judge Albert banged her gavel 3 times before the noise settled back down. But that word was already out there. It could not be taken back. It could not be explained away. It could not be reframed or softened or placed in any other context. Before. She had feelings for Femi before she sent those messages, which meant she did not send them out of worry. She did not send them out of genuine concern. She did not send them because of campus talk or health fairs or any of the things she had offered as explanation. She sent them because she wanted Femi for herself. She sent them to clear the road. She sent them to remove the one obstacle standing between her and the man she had decided she wanted. And that obstacle was the very friend who had opened the door for her. Judge Albert looked at Chinonso for a long moment. Then she said what the entire courtroom was already thinking. So, you had romantic feelings for this man and you deliberately shared false information to compromise his relationship with the plaintiff. Chinonso's voice came out barely above a whisper. I know how it sounds. It sounds exactly like what it is, the judge replied. Sit down. Judge Albert wrote for a while. No one spoke. Benita stood with her hands folded. Chinonso stared at the table. Then the judge looked up and spoke. She told the court what was already clear to everyone in the room, that Chinonso Eze had willfully transmitted false medical information about Benita Okafor to a third party, that the information was unverified, that it was shared with deliberate intent to damage the plaintiff's standing in an existing relationship, that this was textbook defamation, calculated, malicious, and effective. On the matter of damages, Benita had asked for 2 million naira. Chinonso was a student with no income of her own. The judge was not going to award money that did not exist and could never realistically be paid, but she was also not going to pretend the harm was small. The court awarded Benita Okafor 850,000 naira in damages, to be paid by Chinonso Eze within 60 days. Failure to comply would result in further legal proceedings. Then Judge Albert set down her pen and said something that went beyond the legal ruling, something personal, something that nobody in that courtroom would forget. Chinonso Eze, let this ruling follow you. Let it remind you that the people who open doors for you deserve better than a knife in their back when they turn around. Gavel down. Court dismissed. But people, the question is, was Benita wrong for introducing her sugar daddy to her roommate in the first place? Drop your verdict in the comments. I want to read every single one. If this case moved you, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to the channel for a brand new courtroom drama.